Dajaha. Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel. So today we are continuing our live for the Word of Honor novel, aka Faraway Wanderers. I'm really excited for it because I got quite good feedback about the way we did it last time. I think we're just gonna go forward and do it that way again as well. But if you guys do have other feedback about it, feel free to share it. I am always looking to improve and make these more enjoyable for you guys and, you know, more viewer friendly, let's put it like that. So I do also want to ask, would you guys like me to share the link for each chapter for you? Because I mean, I think now it's not as necessary as it might have been in the first read through that we did, but if you guys would prefer that you have it on your own screen or something like that, you can let me know and I will share each chapter's link before we go into that chapter. But yeah, before we do get into it, I do just want to give everyone a moment to kind of tune in if anyone is maybe only now getting a notification for it. I did try and like be a responsible YouTuber and put it on my social medias, but I don't know, I always end up forgetting one or the other or something goes wrong, so let's just hope for the best. Anyway, also, speaking of going wrong, would you guys just let me know that the sound is good and you guys can see me and we all are live like we're supposed to be, because that would be fantastic. We are never having a repeat of the first live stream again if I can help it. And then I do also want to say a quick and massive thank you to ALLISON JORDON, Stephanie MAYRHOFER, RONALYN SANTOS AAKRE WAYA, and all my other amazing patrons while we're at it, because they are awesome. And yeah, okay, so let me just calm down for a second here. Sorry, I'm just excited to be doing this because it feels like this week has just been a bit of a mess and it's nice to like wind down with everyone and do some lives again. So anyway, and in case you're wondering why I'm suddenly in like a different location and you maybe didn't watch yesterday's live, I am on dog watch duty, so the easiest way for me to do that when I'm doing lives is to have her on the bed next to me and have her be calm and asleep for hopefully the entire live. We'll see, but she's very cute and I love her very much and I wish I could show it to you guys. Anyway, okay, let me see if you guys are saying anything. Okay, cool. So it seems you guys can hear me. That is very good news. And yeah, I think we can just about get started. Maybe I should what the hell is that? Wait until the 5-minute mark, and then we can get started. So how has everyone's week been? Because mine was a mess, if you guys hadn't noticed, with the power being out and so on. I'm just so glad it's back. Like, I want to say I'll never take power for granted again, but you do kind of like, if it's been long enough, you do end up forgetting how annoying and frustrating it is to be without power for so long. So yeah, just trying to be grateful. Okay. YouTube didn't remember you. What do you mean? Hi, Annie. So, just correct me if I'm wrong. Is your name pronounced Sierra? Is that correct? I don't want to be pronouncing it incorrectly, and I really appreciate you being able to make 2 of my lives. But yeah, okay. And Assam as well. I hope I'm pronouncing everyone's names correctly. Okay, so yeah, let's see. No notification, that's weird. But I mean, YouTube is quite unreliable with notifications these days. Apparently, even when you do put like all the notifications on and everything like that, then still somehow it won't necessarily help. And I'm not sure if, you know, maybe I'm just unentertaining, which is totally possible, but it does also seem like they are back to just randomly unsubscribing people. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. We just appreciate what we have of this platform and the rest we deal with as we go along. say Ra. Okay, I hope that is correct now. Ah, welcome, Vivi. So for anyone who hasn't been here for any of the other lives, Vivi is the voice that you guys hear when we do these. So thanks to her, we are able to do these much more effectively than if I were to do it and constantly be losing my place because I comment too much, and we all know that I comment too much. But anyway, okay, I think we can get started now. I feel like I've been talking too much anyway. So we are going to be picking up from chapter 6, if I'm remembering correctly, if all the checks that I did are right. We left off with chapter 5 last time, so we're going to pick up with chapter 6, and I'm hoping to do up until chapter 8 today. So we'll see how the time treats us. Okay. Let me just make sure that you guys can hear properly. Okay, there's nothing happening yet.
Faraway Wanderers, Chapter 6.
There we go.
The Beauty.
Ooh.
No one made a sound. The group quickly exchanged looks, disregarding Zhang Chenling, to slowly circle around Gu Xiang and Zhou Zishu. Gu Xiang sighed. What an unfortunate situation. I haven't done good deeds in forever. And of course, the moment I did it, trouble comes to me. Brother Joe,
I mean, fair.
I'm just a frail maiden who has never been attacked by this many before. I'm very afraid. Please protect me.
Are you
That last
lying?
sentence could really scare people to death. Zhou Zishu almost had to struggle to breathe properly, giving Gu Xiang a bothered look while the girl put on her best poker face. She then stared back at him witheringly. The group of assassins felt somewhat out of place during this lovingly tender staring contest. It wasn't clear
The sarcasm in the writing.
others to move forward, but in no time, a web-like formation was created, caging the two inside. Only now did Gu Xiang uttered a soft "ah." Face stern, interest peaked, the delicate charade was dropped. She ignored Zhou Zishu, pulling out a small dagger, ready to face the oncoming assault.
So who exactly was she trying to fool if she dropped it so quickly?
Tough one, the moment the fight started. There were 14 enemies, and while it was possible that not all of them would be a match for her, as a whole they had created continuous pressure on all sides, making the situation increasingly perilous. She ended up forced to retreat while fighting, with the formation simultaneously closing in on her, blocking all escapes. Doubt festered in Gu Xiang as she withdrew next to Zhou Zishu. They stood with their back toward each other. Zhou Zishu's gaze darkened. He watched their enemies without blinking, telling Gu Xiang, "I've underestimated them." Gu Xiang couldn't take it in at first. Her forehead sweated faintly. "What is this formation?" Zhou Zishu replied, "I've never encountered it before, but it's said that there exists one called the Formation of Far and Wide. Its structure is ever-changing and well-coordinated. Every person's gap can be filled in by others almost immediately and immaculately, creating a barrier through which nothing can pierce."
That's very
Gu Xiang
interesting.
cried out as Zhou Zishu used his bare hand to stop an incoming blade and knocked it away.
Ow!
"Then what do we do now?" Zhou Zishu gave her no answer, eyes entirely focused. All of a sudden, he flew up, using the altar as a platform to launch himself further into the air. The dusty table didn't even budge during the whole process. 3 masked men followed him immediately, swords blocking every way out, but Zhou Zishu unexpectedly moved backwards, wriggling through the defense like a fish to reach the Buddha statue.
Ooh, okay, that's very interesting. But also it's nice here because, I mean, the fighting in the... I'm sorry, I'm going to keep comparing it to the series until they can't really be compared anymore. But the fighting in the series is obviously a lot more action-based, which makes sense because it's a visual medium. So you don't want to be having them standing around explaining things. You want them to actually just be fighting. But here, I don't know, I like the fact that here it's not as action-based. Like normally, I wouldn't necessarily enjoy it that much because you want things to be fast-paced and intense and things like that. but this almost serves to like showcase how well trained and tactically wise Zosashu is, because it shows you his knowledge of things even if he hadn't necessarily like encountered this thing before. He kind of, you know, drew conclusions because of certain knowledge that he has. So that's very interesting. And I think it gives a little bit more to the villains or the opposing side as well, because you're like, okay, clearly these people are not like messing around. They have a technique that seems to be like quite renowned and mystical and fancy, and they are here to like sort things out. So I do like that. That seems to cast a lot more doubts on whether they're going to come out of this okay or not. I mean, we kind of know because we're on the 6th chapter and there's still a lot to go that they should be fine, but still, I think that's very interesting. Just want to see what you guys are saying. Louder. That is the loudest I can go. I'm not quite sure what else to do. Okay. What I can do, if you guys will bear with me for like 2 seconds, is I can quickly take out my mic and put it here. But that will also mean that other noises that you might not have necessarily picked up before is going to be a bother for you. So let me know what you would prefer. I want to quickly check comments. I always thought it would be funny to think that the attackers are just standing there while the two have their detailed conversation about the formation. I mean, fair, but I had kind of assumed that it's a very quick, you know, conversation, or that maybe like, I don't know. Now that you mention it, I'm like, okay, that is quite strange, but yeah, I think I just kind of assumed that it would be a very quick thing and not as like, oh, here's all the details as we're reading it. But anyway, I always kind of give benefit of the doubt in those kinds of situations. Okay, cool. Okay. So let's continue.
He made a noise, and with an unknown strength, using his hands to propel the statue forward, mumbling, "Buddha, have mercy and help me this time." The stone statue came at the masked man at full force. Wu Xiang immediately stooped down to get out of its way, feeling the wind grazing her hair. The three after Zhou Zishu in midair were not that fast. They didn't expect this retaliation at all. Facing it head-on was the only option, since there was no way to dodge or seek assistance, and naturally they were knocked back, creating a gaping hole in the formation. Gu Xiang snickered. Interesting.
I agree.
She didn't let this momentum go to waste, and with a wave of the arm, an arrow shot from inside her sleeve. The one directly facing her had to bear the brunt of the attack with their face, and they fell back without a sound.
With their face?
The
That sounds so
lost
aggressive.
all their courage. Gu Xiang's murderous streak made its appearance again, and she started charging at them without a care. Zhou Zishu had exhausted all his strength with that move.
Oh, great.
His yet to recover limbs now temporarily numb. He sat calmly on the incense table with no further desire to boast his might. Gu Xiang only noticed after a good while. She turned to him, tone accusing. "Zhou Shu, what are you doing?" Zhou Zishu replied unhurriedly, "Little sister Gu, I'm just a frail beggar who has never been attacked by this many before. I'm very afraid. Please protect
He's
me."
only frail
Xiang's
when it suits him, and I
hands
mean,
shook in anger. Her knife plunged.
like, I know, to be fair, he's genuinely like unable at the moment, but I love how he just turns that into an excuse when he needs it, and otherwise he's like totally fine to just go at it as needed.
Into one's chest to the point that it was deeply lodged in the ribcage and unable to be removed. Gu Xiang was flexible, but not enduring enough in a long fight. She became frantic after having lost her weapon, moving 3 steps back, trying her best to defend herself. Jotsushu, after a fair time to rest, didn't rejoin the fight right away. He watched them all with a chuckle, picking up a few small rocks. He played with them before abruptly shooting one at the forehead of one intending to perform a sneak attack on the girl.
Okay, I was
That's
about
no
to say,
good.
like, he
No good
needs
at all.
to help
Your moves don't have
Guxiang.
structure to it. He gave her some directions at the same time. He was as quick as lightning, flicking another stone at one's Huantiao point to make them lose balance and stumble forward, conveniently right under Guxiang's feet. She instinctively lifted her leg, a reflecting light flashing under her shoe to reveal a tiny blade, which was used to stab the person in the throat.
Oh,
Jotsushu
nice.
continued leisurely. The foundation is of utmost importance. If your phases are without roots, and you move without a basis, how can you fully control yourself in a situation? Guxiang.
Okay, before we continue, I have to say here, like, I mean, I didn't have an issue with it in the series because he's a great fighter, so I could still understand why Zhang Qinling wanted him as a mentor. But here, with the fact that he's kind of almost naturally falling into the role of guiding her through this battle, it lends even more credence as to why Zhang Qinling would even think to ask him about that, you know? Because clearly Zishu knows how to train someone. So I like that. I like all of these little details that just flesh everything out a little more than they had time to do in the series. And obviously with a novel, you do want there to be more attention paid to these things because it's a novel and they have time to do all these things properly. So, okay.
Was a smart one. She bent her back to dodge a sword, kicking at the enemy's leg. Taking advantage of them falling forward to restrain the pulse, she snatched their weapon away afterwards, cracking down on their Bai Hui point to kill them for good.
Nice.
Another stone was shot at one's Jianjing point while they were in the middle of attacking, making their upper body freeze and fall. Hu Xiang heard the beggar complain equivocally. No good, still no good. The formation has been broken, but that's not an excuse to take risks. Stop underestimating things. At those
Why he's
words,
just like
the
complaining
low
on the
shape created
side.
from her feet movements became more lively and flexible. She dodged another one who by instinct changed their strategy by holding the sword horizontally, exposing a weak spot that Guxiang could exploit. She easily took down two more thanks to that. In no time, bodies littered the ground. The rest of the masked people glanced at each other and retreated, knowing this would not go well if they continued. Jotsushu frowned. These people were way too troublesome. He did agree to take the boy to this Taihu Holdings or wherever, but he wouldn't tolerate the possible hordes of attackers along the way. If he let them go this time, this would just come back later during the journey.
Interesting.
These murderers with ambiguous identity who tried to eradicate every single person in the boy's family were the true scums of the earth. A fleeting motion made Guxiang dizzy. The person who was just sitting at the table was now at the shrine's door. The masked person nearest to him only had time to slightly lean away before their shoulder was dislodged with a cracking sound. Jotsushu had his hand around their throat, twisting it with the gentlest movement. The tip of his toe lifted the victim's fallen weapon at the same time. On his pallid face was a smile that carried all of the world's demonic energy.
Interesting.
Xiang couldn't keep up with what was happening, and before she knew it, all the remaining of the assassin group had become corpses. She blinked in astonishment. This ragged man's rambling worth diddly squat, but his execution in battle was one of the cleanest and cruelest she had ever seen. It really made one wonder who he was.
I have to say, like, it's kind of weird because I had a bit more of an easy time detaching from the cruelty that Zosashu and Wenkashing oftentimes exerted in the show because it seemed like it was more common. Let me put it like that. Like, most of the people in the show did not necessarily have clean reputations and clean hands. But here, hearing it being described by another character who herself is not particularly, you know, squeamish, it draws a lot more attention to it. So it's kind of hard to listen to. Not in a bad way, but just it's weirdly jarring. I don't know if I'm describing it correctly. I just want to see what you guys are saying at the moment. Okay, guys are still pretty chill. Cool. Okay.
Sushu was actually not holding on as impressively as she thought, his legs like jelly, body not having enough time to recover ever since he touched the ground again. There was a slight sway to him after he had finished all of them, but he had no intention for Guxiang to find out, retreating a few steps as his strength allowed. His walk seemed light as feather, but in reality he was in a miserable state, trying his hardest to find something that could support him. A pair of arms suddenly appeared behind out of nowhere, propping him up firmly. Jotsushu startled. He couldn't sense this person coming near at all, feeling his hair stand on end. Fortunately, the person purely wanted to help with no further motives. Guxiang's eyes.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. You can't give me that moment and then just like keep on going. Like, what the hell? I genuinely, this is gonna sound so stupid, but I genuinely didn't think that this moment appeared in the novel. It seemed like one of those moments that was orchestrated by the series to convey something that would have been conveyed in another way in the novel. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but a lot of the times with censored things, they'll change things up in order to convey a depth that would have been, a lot more obvious in the novel, something that would have been a lot gayer, shall we say, in the novel would then be toned down to something like this in the drama. So the fact that they actually, like, this is an actual thing that happened in both versions, I don't know why, I'm loving it. Okay, sorry, I will try and like calm down, but this is kind of what I'm here for. I do want to see what you guys are saying though. Yeah, he does seem to be more ferocious in the novel. Yeah, and the show is definitely full of villains, which I think was quite interesting because I don't know, it's just weird because you don't often see villains being pitted against each other and you being like actually rooting for one particular villain or, a group of particular villains. So yeah, it's interesting. It's not the kind of series that I often watch, but so worth it. Yeah, I like the thing is you know from the beginning that he's an assassin, but because all the other characters in the show are so much worse in comparison, like they almost become good guys, which I think probably has something to do with censorship, but it's also that ingrained thing of the more you understand a character and the more you can sympathize with characters' motivations, the harder it is to view what they are doing as objectively awful, even when you know that it is objectively awful. Yes, I am so here for Winkishing finally making a proper appearance. Let's just keep going.
Jotsushu heaved a sigh of relief at that, straightening. The person behind him was the man in gray he saw back at the tavern, looking around 30, face undeniably handsome, though his stare would unnerve most people. Those intense eyes were fixed on Jotsushu right now, full of impudence, looking as if they wanted nothing else than to uncover what was beneath the layer of mask on his face. Jotsushu coughed. "Thank you." Unkashing. The man replied, his expressions riddled with vague doubt. He dragged his eyes down to Jotsushu's neck and hands, suspicion only piling up further. Even though Jotsushu could detect the man's intentions, he had confidence in his craft. He knew his skills better than anyone. If he failed at this simple disguise, then he would have perished during a mission years ago. Ah, thank you, Brother Wen, he said calmly. The man tore his gaze away after a good while, nodding. It's nothing. He strolled into the shrine. After that, Guxiang was flittering around, kicking away the bodies, making a seat for her master from the hay. Wen Kexing glanced at Zhou Zishu once more. I didn't mean to do it, he added, in case the latter misunderstood what happened. Zhou Zishu instantly recognized where Guxiang got her peculiar attitude from. He sat down and began to meditate. After about 2 hours, he opened his eyes to Wen Kexing, leaning on a wall, legs crossed, still watching him intently. He couldn't help but ask, is there something on my face?
Like the fact that they managed to put so much of that into the show.
With a straight face. Are you wearing a disguise? Zhou Zishu tensed, his face betraying nothing. What do you mean? The other paid it no mind, muttering under his breath. How strange. Really, really strange. I can't see if you're wearing a mask or not. Can't be sure that you aren't. He rubbed his chin, sounding uncertain. I've never been wrong before. The moment I saw your butterfly bone, I know you had a great beauty.
Like, I think I'm going to end up losing it quite a few times over all the things that actually managed to make their way into the show. I'm not going to lie, because those scenes in the show still get me, even with every single rewatch that I'm currently doing. But I do also want to kind of say it's interesting to me here because if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think they have a past together in the novel. Like they weren't kids who met each other for like a day or whatever, like they were in the show. So it begs the question, did he just maybe hear about Zhou Zishu's legendary abilities and like fighting skills that were very much only known by him, like the swift moving steps, and that's how he recognized him and started suspecting things? Is he just very good at identifying disguises, or like what is the reason that he is still so sure that this isn't Zhou Zishu's real face, So this is very interesting.
Nothing could have prepared Zhou Zishu for that answer. Wen Kexing nodded, confirming to himself. I'm definitely not wrong this time. Of course you're wearing a disguise. Nothing could have prepared Zhou Zishu for this answer either. Wen Kexing didn't stop staring at him, only giving up after a long period. Though I can't see anything on you that would indicate such, he inclined his head backwards. How good must you be for me not to see through your tricks? Can someone like you really exist?
I mean, you
this
technically
is really,
are,
really
though.
Impossible. Guxiang spoke coldly. Master, remember the last time when you told me a butcher was pretty just by looking at his back? Wen Kexing's voice softened.
Okay, so they like changed that as well, because in the series I kind of assumed that Wen Kexing was bi. I'm not saying he can't still be bi, but the fact that even this was changed, I'm like, okay, maybe he's just gay. Either way.
He might be a butcher, but those watery, shining eyes of his were enough proof of his charms. People never care about a hero's background. Why can't that be applied to a butcher too? But what does an uncultured brat like you know anyway? Guxiang sighed. Watery, shining eyes? He was just teary from yawning. And apart from that, his nose was big, his mouth was big, his head was big, his ears. Wen Kexing's voice left no room for arguments. Guxiang, you are very blind. Zhou Zishu had nothing to do but go check out Zhang Chengling's well-being.
I love that that's where it ends, like he gave up hope and just went to check on Jingling. That's the only thing he could do in the face of all of that. Fair. I mean, Wen Kexing is just on another level of confidence, honestly. Okay, let me quickly just see what you guys are saying, because I need a moment to compose myself, because that was a lot. For one chapter, there was a lot that happened. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, like that would make sense. Curiosity, yeah, that definitely would make sense. And do you think that, I mean, even looking at my impressions of him in the first two episodes, it did seem more that he was after the challenge of trying to figure Zosushu out at the beginning. And, you know, the flirting was just more because he did think he was like intriguing and he's convinced that he's beautiful, so what's the harm in flirting type of attitude. So I can totally believe. Yeah, no, Gushong is just, oh my word. Like, I'm so excited for the rest of it because I feel like the deeper we get into this, the deeper we're gonna go into unknown territory, because obviously at one point or another they move away from what the show did. So, sorry. So I'm really intrigued to see what happens then. Okay, I think we can get on to the next chapter. Would you guys like me to share that one with you, or are you guys good with just watching it on my screen or reading it on my screen? Let me just... Sorry, I always have to get these. Okay, that was, I think, a better transition than last time. Okay, cool. And I think we're ready for the next chapter. Now, time's actually looking quite okay. So, while I'm waiting for this one to load,
Faraway Wanderers.
never mind, apparently I don't need to wait for it to load. Okay, cool, you guys are sharp. Hey. So today I'm gonna be posting Untamed. I'm posting Untamed now at 3, and then the new video that's like Word of Honor related. It's actually more just Gongjun Jang Jahan related today, but it's going up at 4. So I'm gonna try and be done by then. We probably actually might even be done before that, but yeah, I promise I won't keep you guys here for more than 2 hours. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying all these lives. Okay, I think we are ready. 1, 2, 3.
Chapter 7.
Hey.
Setting off. When Jotsushu made Jiang Chengling pass out, he did it out of fear that the boy would harbor too many
Oh, I
bad
forgot
thoughts,
that that was a
calming him
thing.
down as a necessity. There was barely any force to it, so the boy woke up not long after the strange Wunkashing arrived.
Yeah.
He opened his eyes, dazedly staring at the ceiling as if his soul had left the body. Until yesterday, he was still the Jiang's young master, pampered by many. Even when his tutor told him that he was utterly stupid and useless. Even when his martial art teacher was secretly disappointed that he was just bad mud, unable to plaster walls. His life was happy and content.
Oh, shame.
He got
To have
people
that
dressing and
ripped out
feeding
of
him.
you,
Everywhere
your
he
life
went,
is
servants
just...
would follow, serving him diligently, even with his mediocre studying until late night. They would flatter him all day long, and even when Jiang Chengling knew his worth, it didn't stop him from basking in the false praises sometimes. His life went by with such privilege for 14 years. Then he lost everything in a single night.
It's sad because I can't help feeling bad for him, even if I do think that in some ways it's probably better that he like came to the realization of what life is actually like and where he stands in everything at an early age when he could still grow and learn from it, rather than once he'd already maybe become too spoiled and self-important and things like that. Because I really love Jiang Chengling. I feel like everyone knows that because yeah, I was in protective mother mode for most of the series. But anyway, just I feel so bad for him.
His home was gone, his parents killed along with all relatives and friends, his world turning upside down. He was terrified, but he didn't know what to do. Jotsushu was the type who knew how to fart better than to console people, so he stayed at his place silently.
Okay,
There was only a blank stare on
interesting.
Jiang Chengling's face, tears streaming down from his eyes. He heard Wen Kexing ask Gu Xiang, "Who's this little thing?"
Oh,
He
shit.
said to be Zhang Yusen's son. Wen Kexing nodded with a dull face, like Zhang Yusen's
Dull
name to
face.
him was no more than a fleck of dust. He spoke again after a while. "I heard that the Zhang family was so poor that they had nothing but money. How did a son of Zhang Yusen end up like this? Did he run off without bringing enough silvers, or was he lost?" Gu Xiang lowered her voice. "From what he told us, someone murdered all the Zhangs. The news must have shaken up the whole city by now, but I guess you didn't hear about it while fooling around somewhere." Wen Kexing thought for a bit and
Calling
nodded.
him out like that.
No wonder there are so many corpses. He turned to assess Jotsushu. "Then what's he doing here?" he asked Gu Xiang. The girl scoffed. "That beggar called himself Zhou. He sold himself to a dead man for 2 silvers. So now he had to
I
escort
mean,
the
he
boy to
didn't really
Taihou."
sell himself
Wen
to
Kexing's
the
eyes
guy.
widened,
Goodness.
internally evaluating something with a completely
Like-
serious face.
I don't know. I just feel like if it was Joshu, he would rather sell himself for like 2 barrels of wine than silver, you know? Though I suppose he could technically buy 2 barrels of wine with the silver. Just want to see if you guys are saying anything. Chenling's the lucky version of Wen Kexing. Ooh, that hurts. And I mean, it's kind of sad to think because it's not that Chenling is genuinely even that lucky. He's just like the end result of all the bad things that happen to him is better than the end result of all the bad things that happen to Wen Kexing. That's very depressing. I don't know. I think I think for me personally, like I do think that Zhang Chenling had, like, it was portrayed quite decently in my opinion. I think the problem kind of was that they didn't have enough time to properly delve into the trauma that you would typically experience from something like that. But I didn't feel like it was cast aside, if that makes sense. Like I didn't feel as if it was just like, oh, he's on fire. My words today are just not working. His entire family was killed, and now he's just kind of waltzing along and everything is fine. You know, he does seem affected by it, and I do think that it maybe worked more as well because of the kind of character that he is, where at the beginning everything was very like held close to the vest and he was scared to appear vulnerable and all those things. So I think that that helped excuse why we didn't really see that much of an outward effect for it. And I do think that those moments of emotional outbursts did a lot in showing his mental state and the fact that he wasn't necessarily as put together as he might have tried to lead everyone to believe. So yeah, I do think it's nice here that we get to see what he's thinking a little bit more. So I do think that inevitably it will always be better because you can hear more of what the character's thinking and feeling. But I don't think the portrayal in the show was bad at all. I've seen some really bad like grief portrayals in my time, so I am a bit like biased towards things that are at least decent, if not fantastic.
He told Gu Xiang afterwards, "Now I'm even more certain that he's a beauty. Only beautiful people can be that dumb. Wu Xiang resorted to ignorance, too used to her master's antics. Zhou Zishu followed suit, since he had yet to fully gauge this man's ability. He turned to look at a teary Jiang Chengling, feeling somewhat annoyed and wishing that the younger would stop already. He poked him with the tip of his toes, coughing. Young Master Jiang, get yourself together if you've done resting. You shouldn't stay at this place for long. There must be more people after you to finish off their job. This Uncle Joe is entrusted, so the least he will do is take you to Taihu safe and sound. Jiang Chengling's eyes shifted to look around. The moment they stopped, he covered his face with his hands and curled up into a ball, wailing. Zhou Zishu felt a headache coming with the boy's cries. He told himself that scolding was necessary, but didn't have the heart to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad, because that, like,
so
the poor kid.
Was the best option. Then suddenly he sat up, walking toward the door. He was intending to check out the state of the Buddha statue and maybe restore it to the original place, reasoning that his previous action seemed quite offensive and wouldn't help if he wanted to gather more merits. Zhou Zishu didn't expect Jiang Chengling, who at the moment assumed the elder wanted to abandon him, to scramble forward, rushing to grip at his ankles, shouting, Uncle Joe, please don't leave me. He looked extremely pitiful, sobbing like that. Even though they ran into each other by pure chance, the younger had no one else to rely on but Zhou Zishu. The latter was his savior, a living Buddha.
Sorry, just give me a second. Let me just find where on earth... How on earth did I lose that place? It just went. Okay, there we are. My word. Sorry about that. And I was like in so many emotions, and now I'm like lost. Oh yeah, no, Vivi, I know you didn't mean it was like bad. Don't worry about it. I just like, it's interesting to me to compare and note how the different mediums have to work in order to try and achieve the same effects. So don't worry about it. I know you love Word of Honor just as much as I do. So yeah, no.
Zhou Zishu looked down at him impassively, voice insipid. Has your father never told you that a true man has gold under his knees? After a moment of being starstruck,
what does that mean?
Thanks to those
does
words,
that okay? There are like footnotes, but I'm not gonna check them out right now. But does it basically mean that like he's not supposed to kneel? I don't know. If anyone knows, please share in the comments.
Chengling finally reached some kind of comprehension. He used his sleeves to wipe away the tears and snots with all his might.
Oh, yeah.
Paying respect to the sky, the earth, the king, family, and teacher is a matter of course. You have saved me, Uncle Joe. Will you let me be your disciple? Wen Kexing and Gu Xiang observed the scene in amusement, the latter whispering, Last night he was still a foolish child. He got smart real fast, huh?
He's always been smart. He's just been, well, in shock, I think. And also, you know, it takes a little bit of time to adjust and adapt. So, Gu Xiang's being way too hard, but we know that's just her way of caring.
Stand up first. Jiang Chengling stubbornly refused. I won't stand until you accept. If I can't avenge my family, am I even worth existing? Shifu.
Oh, don't say that.
Cared none about his arguments, dragging the younger up by his shoulder. I'm an invalid who's gonna die soon. It's enough of a blessing for me to be able to get by another day. And you think I can teach you anything? I heard that Sir Zhao Jing of Taihu is your father's old friend. Go see him, and there will be better people to help you with your vengeance. He concentrated his internal force into the palms, picking up the statue and putting it back on the altar, muttering, Sinful, sinful. He saluted, not quite seriously.
But I do think like he's maybe lying, not necessarily to Jiang Chengling, but maybe even to himself about why he's not willing to take Jiang Chengling on as a disciple. But I'm less sure of it here, because in the series, I mean, we have a lot of context for his emotional guilt and so on, and I think here in the novel as well, but I just feel like maybe he's also trying to protect himself from getting attached to people again.
Before turning to speak to a dumbfounded Zhang Chengling, we should leave now that you're fully awake. If you want to avenge your family, we need to get you to Sir Zhao as fast as possible, but now we should get some food first. He stretched without a care, smiling at Gu Xiang and ignoring Wen Kexing. He then left the shrine in a blink of an eye.
Wen Kexing is always going to be
bothering
battling to get his attention,
catch up.
no matter which
The boy stood
adaptation
in
or
dejection,
novel it is.
but hurriedly followed after realizing the man had already gone. Wen Kexing rubbed his chin, watching the two silhouettes with obvious interest. Let's follow them. We're going to Taihu. He stood up and told Gu Xiang. The mischievous look on her face vanished. She replied in a low voice after some thoughts. Master, Zhang Chengling said that the Zhang family massacre was done by ghost of Qingzi. Shui Fang, the hanged ghost, was there. Wen Kexing glanced at her with no expressions. So? Gu Xiang started a little, chasing after the already leaving Wen Kexing, asking him with a serious voice. The hanged ghost was clearly fake since I beat them yesterday. Master, did you know something already? Xiang. Wen Kexing stared at her again.
I love it when he calls her that.
His eyes, seemingly black holes that could suck people in. Gu Xiang quieted down immediately, mumbling, I know, I talk too much. At that moment, her face looked pale, as if this ever-fearless girl was dreading something. Wen Kexing's fixed gaze turned away in approval after the reply as he continued forward. Gu Xiang followed him, keeping a small distance. She heard Wen Kexing, We're gonna follow that Zhou person. My instincts were never wrong. He can't be anything else but beautiful. We will catch him red-handed eventually. Xiang, let's make a bet since you don't believe me. Because of this, Zhou Zishu definitely didn't have a peaceful journey.
Oh no.
Escorting Zhang Chengling was no different than carrying the biggest fart as her.
Sorry.
Just knocked out another one tonight, regretting his decisions while looking at the two silvers. He still had half of his strength and his skills didn't go anywhere, so those people should know better than to touch him. But the nails made things unpredictable, resulting in his annoyance at the endless torture from both the pain and the flock of scums attacking it every minute, not to mention the pair of master and maid who kept trailing behind them for no reasons. He could throw them off the track with ease had he not been accompanied with a small burden. In addition, the mysterious Wen Kexing had some talent to him. There were many times Zhou Zishu managed to leave him behind, only to end up seeing the terribly punch-inviting face just half a day later.
That description though, oh my word, punch-inviting face. I mean, it's accurate. Like, not to me personally. Like, I think he definitely does not have a punch-inviting face. He has quite an attractive face, at least in the series. But, you know, if you think about the way that it was portrayed in the drama, that is kind of the vibe that you get Zhou Zishu feeling. It's just brilliant. And it's interesting to me because obviously I prefer the way that they showed it in the drama, where we actually got to see quite a few times where Zhou Zishu thought that he'd lost them and then they just show up drinking tea by the lakeside or something like that. You know, but obviously here they can't really show a montage like that. And it's just interesting the way this is being described, that it still manages to give that same effect. I'm living for this. I just want to see what you guys are saying. Oh! Hi, Ku. It's nice to see you. I didn't actually think you'd be able to drop by. Oh my goodness, this is so good. I'm sorry, I can't get over the fact that he called him that. Okay, calm, collected. I just want to see if I'm missing any comments here. I'm having problems hearing the reading properly. Is it very low? even though Janae's volume is fine. Oh goodness. I'll just. This is the best I can do. I can see if next time I can maybe try and arrange a speaker. And the drama, the punch inviting face always turns to a puppy face if Zosushi wants to punch it. I mean, that is very true. That is extremely true. Anyway, okay, let's continue.
Jotsushu quietly dragged another assassin's body outside before returning to their room to meditate.
Oh yeah, no, just like, you know, day in the life.
Still deeply asleep with his nonsensical dreams. During the past days they were traveling together, he found out that this boy didn't display any stuck-up behaviors. The wailing child of before seemed to have disappeared completely, like he was forced into maturity. He didn't complain even when they were going at a very slow pace, obeying Jotsushu's every word, being generally very honest and sincere. His only shortcoming was the inability to stop calling the elder Shifu, no matter how much he had been corrected. Jotsushu eventually gave up, believing that after dropping the boy off in Taihu for the Jows, he would leave immediately to travel anywhere he wanted.
Oh, you thought, and then you're gonna get attached,
and
it's gonna be game over.
Lakes, he would go south rather than north, as there was a friend in Nanjiang to whom he hadn't paid a visit. He had to at least see them and have a drink together before descending to the underworld. Suddenly, the young man on the bed tossed and turned violently, drenched in sweat. He was like that almost every night. During the day he was calm on the outside, with thoughts of vengeance and regaining mental stability. The memories of that fated night had become nightmares, not letting him go. Jotsushu sighed, shaking him awake. Zhang Chengling let out a cry and sat up, eyes blank. He only reacted after a good time had passed, murmuring at Jotsushu, "Uncle Joe, I didn't mean to do that." He was so young and inexperienced that even his bloodshot eyes retained an innocence that was way too familiar. Jotsushu was instantly reminded of someone he knew in the past.
That's exactly what I think he was afraid of.
The one whose only wish was to wander everywhere in Jianghu with him. He couldn't help but sit there in a daze. Zhang Chengling spoke cautiously. "Uncle Joe, I didn't mean to wake you up. I just dreamt of my father." His lips quivered, pale. I can stop sleeping if it's a problem."
You got... Zhang Chengling is like way too nice for his own good. I can stop sleeping if it's a problem. Like, what the hell? What kind of a offer is that? No, you cannot. Take care of yourself, please. Like, the last thing that Jotsushu needs right now is to be worrying about whether or not you're gonna collapse because you weren't sleeping. Okay, sorry?
Zhu patted his shoulder, voice unintentionally tender. "It's all right. Sleep all you want. I'll wake you if there's a nightmare." Zhang Chengling made a noise in reply, crawling back under his blanket, fingers still unconsciously holding onto Jotsushu's sleeve. The man stared down at it meaningfully. There was awkwardness in Zhang Chengling's smile when he retracted his hand. At that moment, from a place seemingly not far away, there was someone making a twang sound with the strings of their zither. Zhang Chengling felt that sound as if feeling a lightning snapped right next to his ears. Even his organs seemed to tremble. Pain started afterwards, and he cried out loud, clutching at his chest desperately.
Oh, hell. Okay, I did not see that coming already. I thought that would happen a bit later. Oh, hell. Okay, but wait, is Zosushu still nearby? Because at least then he'll see it happen and he'll maybe be able to help. It's fine. He's not gonna die. Okay, let me just see what you guys are saying and then we can move on. Yeah, I do feel bad for Chinling as well. He's junior Chin Joshao in Lord 7, who's innocent and sweet, just like Chinling. Yeah. I mean, at this point, I probably would also be, like, after everything he's been through, it makes sense that he's still a bit scared for that. like, damn, I feel so bad for him, but okay, we can't dwell on it too much. Let's move on to chapter 8, and we'll see how all of this is resolved, because I'm assuming that this is the same guy that you see in the series that Zulsashu managed to like sort out. So let me just get chapter 8. Oh, here's if anyone was interested in the footnotes, a man had gold under his knees means that men must retain their dignity in any situation. Okay, yeah. I don't think that crying should take away from your dignity, but at least it makes sense in context, unfortunately. Okay, and we should now have chapter 8. Yes. Cool. Yeah, I mean, like, they couldn't show a lot of it in the series, but it does like give that impression even in the series. But I'm hoping that we might learn a little bit more in the novel, because it was kind of left up in the air in the series, and I understand there's a lot that they have to get to in a very short time, but I would like to know more. So okay, let us continue with chapter 8.
Faraway Wanderers, Chapter 8, Moonshade.
Ooh, that's a nice
The
chapter
sound
title.
made by the zither was incredibly thin, like a binding spiderweb coming from every direction, carrying deadly, treacherous intentions. Wuxiang also felt the insides of her body churning at the sound, but she was quick to assess the situation, immediately forcing herself to calm down. Wen Kexing, who was just sleeping on the bed moments before, had already woken, standing by the window silently. Moonlight veiled over his face,
that sounds like a beautiful
his features. His eyes
image.
didn't blink, staring pointedly at somewhere in the dark. His shadow stretched long behind him. He remained unmoved, expressions flitting between blankness and mirth, creating the image of a detached but mystifying stone statue. Under the cover of the night, his dangerous aura
if that
was set
isn't
free
him.
without restraint. He looked like a ghost, empty of human emotions. Wuxiang was smart enough to cover her ears the moment she sensed something abnormal, trying her best to block the sound coming from outside. She sat up straight, finally getting rid of the nausea after minutes of meditation. Wen Kexing's slender fingers brushed over the window bars, letting out a low laugh. They even recruited enchanted song, Qin Song. This would definitely cost a fortune. Makes one question who they wanted to deal with. In a flash, he heard something dashing through the air. The sound was thick, barely recognizable, like it came from the strings of an old and unused instrument. There was also another person, flinging tiny rocks into the endless night sky. There was...
Okay, but this is interesting to me as well, because in the show, obviously, they kind of more had a thing of, oh, you guys help us here, and then along the line, you'll benefit from it. But in the novel, it's much more seems to just be like, okay, they paid a lot of money to get this done, so whoever is behind all this must have funds and connections, which already, in my opinion, limits the number of suspects quite a lot more than someone who could maybe just bargain with someone. If you can bargain and you can guarantee something, then there's a lot more people who would just be able to do that than somebody who is able to just have cash on hand, I don't know if I'm making sense, but anyway.
Almost no sound to the flying objects, but those elusive rocks managed to cut off the never-ending zither's song in such a subtle way, not unlike how one threw a stone into the water, instantly creating ripples that spread to places no one could see or catch. As expected, the song halted.
Okay, hold on. Before, sorry, I keep pausing, but the fact that that's the description that was given, and when you look at the visuals that were shown with the scene and the like way that the music spread, it's exactly that. Like you could see the sound waves in the air like ripples in a pond. I'm living for all the details.
On the window to listen attentively, his eyes closed. The corner of his lips lifted into a smile. The zither resounded again all of a sudden, the strength carried in the song rivaling floods and giant beasts. Its users seemed to have resorted to the killing mode. Practically at the same time, an ear-piercing noise was unleashed from the room next door. It seemed to come from a flute, but normally flutes would never make sounds that sharp. So sharp to the point it felt like they could tear something apart. A battle broke out between the intense flute and the demonic zither, with implausible reflex from both sides.
Interesting to me that when Cushing is so removed from this fight.
Into silence afterwards. Cushing still stood where he was, shaking his head and mumbling, "Our predecessors have never been wrong. It's inevitable for a swordsman to die by a sword." Cushing let out an exhale after everything had passed, wiping the cold sweat on her forehead. "Say, master, is that Chin something dead?" Cushing's voice was gentle.
I should not laugh, but the way she sounds like she doesn't really care.
All of his meridians have been broken. He's useless now. Death would have been a happier fate for him.
Oh my word.
He suddenly pushed open the window, speaking to Guxiang with an even lower voice than before, as if not wanting to disturb something. "Listen, Xiang, life will always be fascinating. If you want something, be prepared to pay for its price. Using a zither to kill people is surely fun, but you have to watch out for the ones that can bite back." Guxiang tilted her.
Wow, okay. Like, I think it's interesting that it feels like we're still relatively in the beginning of everything, and yet we've had the first very unsettling thing about when Cushing revealed. Like, because that was said with a lot of like, you know, not too much care about it. Okay, that is intense. Ooh, how, sorry, I keep making, okay, there we go, okay. Didn't skip too far this time at least.
When will they bite back? When Cushing was patient. When they're stronger than you. The girl nodded, asking again after mulling the thought over. "Why do you have to compete with someone stronger when you can just pick on weaker ones instead?" He turned his head to look at her.
That sounds quite cruel.
Being backlit by the moon, the man's whole body seemed to bathe in silver light, his expressions getting harder and harder to read. After a good while, he replied, "Or you can pick on no one and be a good person like me." When Cushing then left through the window, leaving a speechless Guxiang behind staring after him. Jotsushu's situation was not
Be a good person like me. Be like a philanthropist. I'm never going to be able to forget those words. Like, they will haunt me after death. Anyway.
Either. He made this flute during the journey out of boredom, with very poor craftsmanship. The notes were not right, the tuning all over the place, so he never got around to using it. He didn't expect it to be useful tonight.
Okay.
A big crack appeared after a single use. It was fortunate for him to have been able to manipulate the opponent into giving it their all, because only then did he succeed in delivering the killing blow. The results would have been very different otherwise.
Okay, but the fact that he was so intense on it as well is very intriguing. Like, he clearly knew what he was doing, and I can't help wondering how he learned about that kind of cultivation, because I don't think it's just, you know, the kind of thing that anyone can just do if they have enough cultivation skill. You know, you need to probably have practiced it a little bit as well. But also, can we have Wen Cushing fixing that flute for him, or even better, crafting a new one for him? Can that be a thing that happens in the future. Please? Am I asking too much? Probably. Let me just quickly check what you guys are saying, because I feel like I haven't in quite a while. Yeah, they did really do a good job with that scene, I have to say. Okay. I mean, it was really a very beautiful scene, and the innuendos that came out of that scene were like worth appreciating, you know, because we gotta take what we can get from censored BL. Like, the show was just so good.
Zhang Chengling looked like he had just been fished out of the water, since the boy wasn't competent enough, even though Zhou Zishu had helped cover his ears. The zither sound still left him with internal injuries. His face was as blanched as a paper after throwing up. Zhou Zishu was worried that he was too young and weak to meditate on his own, so he put his palms on the younger's back.
Sorry, I just have to say, I agree. The fact that there is no food joke in this is like, it's very disappointing, honestly. But yeah, I am looking forward to kind of, like, I will find many excuses to continue doing rewatches of Word of Honor, believe me. But I am excited to see how knowledge of the novel will impact my view of the series. I don't think it's going to impact it negatively, though. I tend to gravitate towards whichever version of something I was introduced to first. So I think that regardless of how the novel ends up being, I will still always have a soft spot for the series.
His voice, concentrate. Then he used his inner force to assist the boy. Only
what inner force? You need to be sparing your inner force.
His own body was drenched
for yourself,
in sweat.
my man.
It was
Even
a
though I
blessing
appreciate
that
the
they
fact
were
that
very
you're so
close to
sweet.
Taihu now, he mused, or else he would feel incredibly humiliated for almost not carrying out the mission that he had promised to do. Having never done any good deeds for a large portion of his life, he couldn't fail the very
that flute joke, yes.
First one. That would probably cause bad luck. In Jianghu, there was next to no one who possessed as much information as him, Tian Chuang's former leader. He knew exactly who the person he fought was the moment they went head-to-head. Legends had it that enchanted song Qin Song was a eunuch who loved to dress as a woman. The colorful clothes he wore forewarned people of his poisonous nature. Thanks to the fact that he could murder people without a trace, he was very valued. His principle was that the more he was paid, the more loyal he would be to that person. Since silence had fallen, Zhou Zishu surmised that he was either dead or very close to it. Had he been as powerful as before, he would have finished the other off. But now, only half his life was left, so there was no certainty of success. Besides, that might be too cruel. He then heard the sound of clapping outside and someone praising. How emotionally provoking this nighttime melody has been. How would anyone not miss their hometown after listening to it? Brother Joe has blended the sound of flute and zither beautifully under the moon and stars tonight.
Of course.
This talent, this elegance must belong to a beauty only. He had never seen
all the
anyone
compliments.
talking
Just
this
giving
much
him
rubbish.
all the compliments.
Zhou Zishu thought about how he didn't notice the other standing outside the window at all. Someone this unpredictable would be hard to deal with even when he was at his best. He could only think of 3.5 people who possessed such power. It would be foolish to ever offend any of them. He inhaled, opening the window, pointing at his sickly face with the deadly pale skin and dull eyes. This beauty? He asked. Wunkexing choked, glancing at the visage, which was not too unpleasant, but not something people would want to look at twice either. He turned to watch the moon after that.
Sorry, I couldn't. Yeah, no, he just grabs every chance to flirt, I agree. But like, also I couldn't help thinking of when Ku was doing the reactions for Word of Honor, and like, he prefers Zulsishu with his beggar outfit, so Winkishing, I think you will find that people do disagree. But also just, I can't help thinking about that scene where he asks him, like, is it pretty? And he's like, oh, it's perfect. I mean, actually, he just says, yes, it's pretty. But they translated it as, it's perfect. And like, oh, these two are gonna kill me. Okay, calm down. Yes! Minnie understands where I'm coming from, honestly.
Zushu lifted his legs to sit on the windowsill, following the other's gaze. The full moon was especially bright tonight. The moonlight was cold like water, and the ground looked like it was covered in mist. Jotsushu wondered who Wenkashing was among those dangerous 3.5 people. On the other hand, he was also unsure about the man's motives for following him. The confusion only grew the more he thought about it. He felt a particular aura from this man that suggested they might be birds of a feather. The other would
yeah, that's a
definitely not do
dangerous
something
feeling
if
to
it
have.
didn't benefit him. He was following another man, or...
But also, let's just appreciate Zosushu's instincts being on point.
Actually was following Jiang Chengling to Taihu. There must be some kind of plan behind this. After lots of thoughts without any solid conclusions, he scoffed at himself. Old habits die hard. He looked down to Wenkashing studying him enthusiastically, smiling. If Brother Wen is really curious, how about making me shed my skin to see the flesh inside? Wenkashing raised his brows.
I don't think
Fine
that's
by
the
me.
kind of shedding
His hands were
of
at
skin that he was
Jotsushu's
talking
face
about.
barely after the word fine was uttered. But the latter was prepared. Leaning backwards, one leg raised to kick at
Winkishing is
Wenkashing's
so
wrists.
forward.
In just seconds, there were so many moves traded back and forth, they would make any onlookers dizzy. Jotsushu felt like he was at a disadvantage since his position on the windowsill limited lots of movements. He ducked down to dodge another move, jumping down. However, the night was not a good time for him, and in addition to the previous torment, a nail caused intense pain at that moment, making him slow down. Wenkashing's palm was close to his torso out of nowhere, but the man suddenly stopped before he was hit with his strength. Jotsushu looked down to glimpse at the palm that was almost touching his chest. His expression calm as ever, he smiled. Thank you, Brother Wen, for having mercy on me.
Did Winkishing somehow sense that something was off? Like, because why else would he avoid touching there specifically when that seems like, you know, the most accessible points? Very interesting. I wonder how much he suspects. Come on.
He was interrupted by that very palm reaching up to touch his face. Wenkashing didn't stop there as he slowly caressed with his fingers, seemingly want to determine if it was really human skin.
Yeah, no,
Jotsushu
sure, that's all
didn't
that
get
he's
to step
doing.
back before Gu Xiang, having heard the noises, looked down from the windowsill and pulled her head back inside almost immediately, exclaiming, "Oh my, how rude of me."
Now you care about
Correct.
being rude?
Exactly what he was also thinking. Wenkashing stood very close to him with a serious face. The seriousness turned ambiguous under the moonlight, giving one the impression that he was actually being rude. Gu Xiang didn't bother to be quiet. "Oh man, I'm going blind, I'm going blind." Jotsushu quickly coughed, stepped a long
I
step
shouldn't
back,
been doing this
calming
much.
himself down. He found this situation both hilarious and embarrassing.
Me too.
Did Brother Wen see what my face is made of yet? Human skin, Wenkashing replied after moments of pensiveness. Jotsushu
That's
seemed to
kind
agree
of
without
creepy,
thinking.
not gonna lie.
Wenkashing stared at his hands. Strange. How strange. It feels like it's become one with your body. Jotsushu replied unperturbedly. It's a shame to admit this, but I'm
Yeah,
actually
totally.
born with it. Were there another person observing, excluding Gu Xiang, of course, they would definitely come to the conclusion that one of these two men was a lunatic.
Why not both?
Wenkashing felt a bit out of his depth, looking at Jotsushu one last time before leaving, not to his room, but somewhere outside. Guxiang.
Sorry, I just have to highlight this comment, Minnie, saying like, Guxiang, my eyes, my eyes. I mean, that is in essence what we're getting from her reaction. I love it.
Stuck her head out again, rolling her eyes while beaming. Huh. Master must be unable to accept reality at the moment. Bet he's gonna visit his pretty friend at Golam Bordello. It's good that he's gone. Everyone can prepare for sleep now. There was a considerable distance between them and Wankashing, but without looking back, his voice was still delivered to Guxiang directly and clearly through the air. He said, "What did you just say, Xiang?" Guxiang gave in. "Just breaking wind." Then she quickly went back inside, as if wanting to keep the reply to herself. Only then did Jyotishu exhale, releasing the tension from his body. Gritting his teeth, he leaned onto the wall without making any sounds. It was fortunate that his pain came in phases and bursts. He waited until feeling a little better to pull himself together before getting back inside. Tonight seemed to be longer than usual. 3 days later, Jyotishu and a Jiang Chenling who became surprisingly thinner after just a few days reached Taihu. He knocked on the door, but before he got to explain anything, the butler stared at Jiang Chenling, crying out, Are you Chenling? Are you really Chenling?"
So
then he turned his head to yell at the servants, "Go inform Sir, quickly! Young Master Chenling is here. Young Master Chenling is still alive." A short time passed by until Sir Zhao Jing of Taihu was at the door to greet them himself. Jiang Chenling fell onto his knees. It seemed like the news had spread everywhere. They stood there crying together before making a fanfare of escorting them inside. Finally, his ancestors would no longer be haunted, Jyotishu mused. Being a good person was really exhausting.
I love that that's where the chapter ends. Like, yes, being a good person is really exhausting. That's it. That is everything that we're going to learn from this novel. That was so good, though. Oh my goodness. I know, there was a lot more in these 3 chapters than I was expecting. I really enjoyed it. And I am still impressed by how much of the essence they managed to translate into the series. But I don't know, this was so good. This was really, really so good. And I love that the flirting that was happening on the series is like, it still is the same quality flirting that we're seeing here in the novel. Because, you know, if you see one version of something, it's always kind of scary to go into the other version of it and hope that some of your favorite moments live up to the way it's portrayed. And yeah, these definitely did. Oh my word. I'm absolutely living for this. Okay, just calm down for a moment. No, unfortunately, I don't think. Yeah, we could do another chapter if you guys are up for it. Let me know. I think my dog should still be fine for another chapter. Okay, I'll give you guys like 2-3 minutes to let me know if you'd like to do another chapter. Let me download that so long while we're here, in case you guys are interested. But my word, like, I try and press the buttons on my phone and my fingers are too cold for them to properly register, which is not great. Anyway, okay. You guys seem to be more or less in agreement that we're going to do another chapter, so let's go. I think it should be fine. I really hope you guys can't hear my dog's snoring here in the background, but she's so cute, I can't wait to wake her. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it, because I really am, and I don't want to be the only one enjoying this. I want you guys to enjoy it as well, so yay. Okay. Wait. Hold on. Okay, let me just grab chapter 9 on here. I'll check. Okay, yeah, no, it should still be fine. Yay. Okay, there we are. What's this chapter? In the woods. Ooh. Wonder what's gonna, like, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I can immediately connect to it, but not really, unless it's maybe the murder of the 2 sect members, like as they're fighting for the glazed armor, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, let's start.
Chapter 9, In the Woods. Zhao Jing of Taihu, also referred to as the swordsman of Chishan, was once a renowned figure. Before they got to Taihu, Zhou Zishu had been looking forward to meeting this elusive hero, whose name preceded his appearance. The anticipation grew when he caught wind of the news that Yu Tianjie, the only son of Huaxin sect's patriarch, along with Mu Yunge, lord of Duanjian Mountain Manor, and Sir One-Eyed Jiangche, would also be at the same place.
Okay, can I just take a moment to be grateful that I'm not learning all of these names from scratch, because I would be lost. Like, damn. Okay.
Zhou Zishu knew their status and background like the back of his hand. To avoid offense,
Interesting.
had a separate archive for every single event and figure in Jianghu in the last 50 years.
Oh, wow. Okay,
For
so he would be
example,
very
Zhou
knowledgeable.
Zishu knew that Zhao Jing, the heroic Chishan swordsman, was once exiled from his family and spent his days in sufferings. For money, he had committed crimes not unlike what Enchanted Song Qin Song had done. He only started using his real name, Zhao Jing, again at 27, marrying the only daughter of the Feng family that owned Taihu.
I like the fact that there's a reason for why we know so much about him. Like, it makes complete sense that Zhou Zishu would be this well informed on him. And I'm glad that we're not just getting like an information dump without any like context as to why all of this is known, you know?
Potism to build wealth. He also secretly killed off the ones who knew of his past
Oh,
and
that's
was
great.
reaccepted into the Zhao family after the marriage. Another example would be the famous young Sir Yu Tianjie. It was said that he once had a tryst with a maiden from Mei sect, but betrayed her afterwards, resulting in the girl committing suicide with their unborn child of 3 months old. Of course, she was honorable enough to never reveal the wretched lover's name. Zhou Zishu was deeply interested in them, since he knew all too well the kind of people they all were. Besides, he was weak to Zhang Chengling's pleadings, so he
I
agreed
love
to
that
stay
he's
at the
already
Zhao's for one more
admitting
night.
to that.
Despite his past, Zhao Jing did have a gallant aura to him.
Okay, but before we go further with that, it's interesting to me because in the show there's not as much like outright acknowledgement of, hey, these guys are actually definitely dangerous. It's more just, you know, oh, these politicians, you know, kind of thing of like, oh, they all are motivated by their own things. But here it's more like, no, they're legitimately dangerous. So no wonder poor Zhou Zishu is like worried for Chenling's sake.
Didn't look down on the ragged Zhou Zishu, who couldn't even walk properly, but he was also experienced, and through Zhang Chengling's stories of the dangers he had to face on the journey, he became suspicious of this beggar-looking man's background. That day, after helping the two settle down, have a proper shower and food, Zhao Jing called Zhang Chengling to the study to tell him what had happened in the past days.
Ooh,
Zhang Chengling, after all, was still a child. It was hard enough for him to find someone he could call family, so he told the elder everything, even stuffs that he had yet to understand. Zhao Jing listened to him in terror, and after contemplation he couldn't help but ask, "This Zhou gentleman, do you know who he really is?" Zhang Chengling told him what happened at the abandoned shrine without hesitation. Zhao Jing narrowed his eyes and stroked his beard. He comforted the younger briefly before sending him to bed.
Damn, I don't like the fact
From the
that
10
he
days of
knows so
traveling
much
together,
about them right off the
Jyotishu had
gate.
come to know this Jiangshengling child. Despite lacking a lot due to being pampered from a young age, he was a good kid with a good heart, never complaining when facing hardship, to the point of being a little simple-minded. Since Zhao Jing wanted to talk to him, Jyotishu was sure
love
that
how
the sly
fond he
old
is of
fox must have succeeded in
Jiang
tricking
Jing.
Jiang Qingling into revealing information about him without meaning to. He laughed internally. It didn't really matter whether he was Zhou or Zhou Zishu, as both names were shrouded in mystery anyway. Even someone with vast knowledge and ample resources would know no further about Tianchuang, other than the general information about the organization itself, much less its leader.
Okay.
Even if one investigated into...
I mean, I like the fact that they addressed that, because otherwise you might wonder like why he seems okay with them possibly finding out his true identity, because at the end of the day it only really matters that the prince doesn't know where to locate him. It doesn't necessarily matter that that random people know that he was at one point connected to Tianchuang. But considering what you do know, it could be more complicated than Zhou Shishu currently is aware of.
Zhou. They would only dig up a nominal general, whose responsibility was managing the inner court's royal guards, who was worth currying favor with, but not important enough to be looked at twice. Sure enough, from the early morning of the next day, Zhou Zishu became the newest hot topic among residents in Taihu Holdings. It was impossible
the fact that it's it's translated as holdings is going to keep throwing me, because I see holdings as being quite a modern term and it doesn't really fit to me in this historical setting. But I mean, the rest of the translation is really nice, so I'm gonna try and just ignore that one.
Never-ending stream of visitors. He had no choice but to greet and see them off one by one. Ah, Sir Zhao, truly an honor to finally meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. You're asking who taught this lowly one? Oh, we're just nobodies. Not worth being mentioned at all. Ah, Sir Qian, truly an honor to finally meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. Where I'm from? This one is just a lowly beggar. It's not worth mentioning. No, no, no. I'm not from the beggar sect. How can I ever be deserving of joining them? I'm just a nobody, really. Ah, Sir Sun, truly an honor to finally meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. I'm just a nobody. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary at all that you've never heard of me. Ah, Sir Li, truly an honor to finally meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. No, I've never...
I feel like if I were to give video titles for these lives, that would be the video title for the live, is your appearance is truly a prosperous aura, unless you're Wen Kexing. Then Zhou Shishu does not want anything to do with you.
I've never known that other Sir Li that well. What we had was just a convenient assistance during the hard times. Which sect? I'm from...
Sorry, I do want to point out that you guys were saying that it was Wen Kexing's lines in the series, and I have to say that is quite interesting that it's switched up here. But I think it's more believable here because, I mean, he was a lord, you know, he was supposed to be able to walk among the other, you know, more prominent people and be in their good graces and things like that. But I kind of like the fact that they gave those lines to Wen Kexing in the series, because it really just heightened his charisma that you saw in the show. But here, I mean, the only charisma we've really seen in the novel was always directed at Zhou Sishu. So it's a very interesting difference to me.
None. Just a nobody, not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning at all. As the night drew near, Jotsushu had been smiling so much, his entire face was stiffened.
I feel
It
you.
took a lot of massaging for it to return to the natural state. He knew deeply in his soul that complete paralysis wouldn't be far away if he had to suffer one more day of this, so he immediately planned to leave.
Such a drama queen.
Considering the insistence in the inquiries about other people's business, these Jianghu heroes were no better than nosy gossipers at markets. It was as if they wished they could just stick their heads into others' houses and use their eagle eyes to scan over anything and everything, seeing
fair.
under the skin to determine if this was a human or a ghost. If one said they were from one of the 8 big sects and was a disciple of this blah 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 person, the other one could reply that, "Oh, truly an honor to finally meet you. My shishu and your master knew each other way back." Otherwise, they would be considered an outsider and their character needed more time to be judged.
Oh, shame.
It was nighttime. Under the waning moon, Jotsushu opened his eyes. He had been sleeping early since now was the time for the nails to cause troubles. But the pain was nothing too serious. He just needed rest.
Nothing too
He stood
serious,
up,
just like
hesitated
crippling, you know. Sorry.
a little. It was admittedly rude to leave without saying goodbye. He left behind 2 letters, one for Zhang Chengling, saying, "Mountains are still green, waters will still flow long and far." An incredible satisfaction washed over him after writing the note, as he felt like he had finally embodied being a Jianghu wanderer now. The other letter was for Zhao Jing, with one mere sentence, "Ever grateful for the welcoming stay." He placed them under the teapot before gracefully jumping onto the roof. On the roof was a small dragon Lee cat strolling. It felt a fleeting shadow and halted in alert, eyes wide, but didn't see anything else.
So I
Tilting its
love
head-
that how, like, even in this moment, it shows how, like, sure-footed and quick Zosushu is, that he can even, like, get past a cat without the cat noticing. I love all the details, sorry.
In confusion, the cat ran towards the kitchen. Jotsushu left the Zhaos without a sound. He was sure that no one had noticed, so never would he have imagined that there was someone seemingly having predicted his
I
moves.
mean, of course,
and
we
was
have
already
to
waiting
guess
for
it's
him in a
wind
small
pushing.
forest, only a mile away from the holdings. Jotsushu felt annoyance creep up the moment he glanced at the person. He saw Wen Kexing saluting him, smilingly. "Ah, how coincidental, Brother Joe.
Yeah, totally
Seems like
not
we
at
are
all
fated
planned.
after all. Only soulmates would keep crossing paths under the moonlight like this." Jotsushu smiled back. "Truly coincidental, isn't it, Brother Wen?
Ah, I love it
Coincidental
when
my
he's
ass, you
sarcastic.
pestilence," he thought. He tilted his head, asking after not seeing Gu Xiang. "Young Miss Gu's not here?" Wen Kexing gave a straightforward answer. "That little girl is an inconvenience. She walks too slow. She'll only be in the way while I'm looking for this important, elusive figure that is you."
Okay, no, hold on, sorry. Oh, that is just, oh. Can this man just calm down? Like, I need him to stop flirting or just space out the flirting a little bit so my brain doesn't break in the process. These are like all the moments that I usually tend to cut out of reactions because I don't want you guys to just see me freaking out. But, oh my soul. Okay. That mountain green water flow sentence is said by Chengling in the drama when he first met Zosushu. I'll have to go back. Wow. Like, I've rewatched it quite a few times now and I didn't even notice. That's nice. I like that there was a call back to it in this show, even though weirdly enough, I mean, they could have included this in the show. It wouldn't have taken up that much time, but I can also understand them just not doing that. I mean, yeah, it does genuinely feel like if he doesn't flirt, he will die. Okay, anyway, he's a mess. We love it. We love that he's very confident and eager.
Posed on Jotsushu's face. He stared at Wunkashing, then spoke after a good while. If this useless one was an important figure, then what would become of Monk Gu of Mount Changming, the Poison King of the Southern Seas?
Sorry, just I have to. Ivrim, I'm hoping I'm saying your name right. Hi, she's always in my comment sections. I'm assuming. Anyway, but I always see her in my comment section. So hi, it's nice to see you. Thank you for dropping by. But yeah, no, like I just have to highlight this comment. Coincidence. A few minutes later. Oh, I was looking for you. Like, we live for Winkashing's straightforwardness. Just anyway.
Onion Palace, or the Ghost Lord of Qingzi Ridge. Wunkashing stared back meaningfully. Monk Gu cares none for the mortals. All he seeks is the path of cultivation. The Poison King is said to have blended into the vast world of Jianghu. It'd be a hard feat to find him, and the Ghost Lord is no less ambiguous. Never have I got the chance to meet this one. As for whether he's human or not, it's a story for another day. They
So
looked at
mysterious.
each other after that, smiles carrying malicious intentions. Jotsushu was the first to turn his eyes away. Jomo is merely a passerby. Why is it that everyone have their eyes on me? Wunkashing replied with a manner not unlike when one reunited with an old friend during a spring hiking. Then why doesn't Brother Joe stay with the Jows for a while longer? Taihu is popular for its pretty scenery. Why must you leave this soon without looking around a bit?
Of course, because he wants
This
to take you
useless one
out
has
on a
already
date.
experienced Taihu's incredible view. Staying will only create unnecessary inconveniences for Sir Jiao. Not to mention, we don't know each other that well. I did the favor for 2 silvers. It's not worth risking my life for them. Jotsushu paused
Fair.
before adding, escorting the young Master Zhang is purely for gathering merits, so that I won't have to endure any tortures in the underworld after death. That's all to it. Gathering merits. Wunkashing repeated in agreement somewhat, head nodding. Correct. Brother Joe truly shares the same mind with me, and as only beautiful people can do that. It is clear. Jotsushu's temples throbbed at "it is clear." He was about to interrupt when suddenly a piercing scream was heard deep inside the forest behind Wunkashing. They both temporarily stopped. Wunkashing pointed to the direction of the scream. See, my dear soulmate.
No, hold on. You can't just go throwing around that word, my dude. You're gonna break me. See, my dear soulmates. Like, as if we didn't just meet like 2 nights ago and I have not already formed a weird attachment to you that the audience is currently living for, the audience being me. Oh, okay, I am gonna die. It's gonna be fine.
Another chance for merit gathering has appeared. Jotsushu showed hesitation, but eventually decided to go towards the direction of the sound, grudgingly replying to the other at the same time. Eye problems are very serious, Brother Wen. You should look for a physician soon. Wunkashing followed close behind. Jotsushu's Qinggong had reached the stage where he could travel without leaving any traces, but the other man was able to keep up with him without fail, always keeping a small distance. Normally, one would stay silent during the traveling so as not to lose their vital energy, but Wunkashing didn't seem to mind it. Brother Joe is very correct. I do have to see some famous physicians whenever I have the chance to get treated properly. Up until now, I'm still unable to find any mistakes in Brother Joe's disguise. What awful eyesight I have, and I'm not even that old yet. How shameful, shameful.
You were just boasting about your eyesight not like 2 minutes ago. Like, oh, I can recognize someone by their shoulder blades. Their shoulder blades, only their shoulder blades. Don't I have good eyesight? And now it's like, oh no, my eyesight must be terrible. Okay.
Jotsushu really wanted to get rid of those eyes that were supposedly getting worse every day. But on second thought, he didn't know enough about this man, and with the intellect and self-restraint of a former Tianchuang's leader, he would not do something foolish like that. With an incredible speed, soon enough they reached the deeper part of the forest. There they saw a corpse.
Ah, joy.
The person died a ghastly death, dressed in black clothes, their mask fallen to both sides, revealing wide-open eyes. Jotsushu felt a sense of familiarity before he even got to see the body clearly. Isn't this Sir Mu, Lord of Duanjian Mountain Manor? Just this morning, he was rambling to no ends for an hour. No one could have thought that he also became a night owl like Jotsushu. Then a dead owl, unfortunately. Wunkershing approached as well,
So
rubbing
straightforward.
his chin with interest. Moonlit night, black clothes. It's possible that... Jotsushu turned to the other, ready to hear his deductions, only for Wunkershing to continue his brilliant train of thought.
Brilliant.
That Lord Mu is out here picking flowers?
Considering that we know what picking flowers means, really, Wunkershing, that's where your mind went? He's dead, and that's what you're thinking about. Brilliant train of thought indeed.
Jotsushu turned away, face expressionless, internally praising himself for keeping his composure.
I'm
there was
praising
no trace
you as
of
well.
blood on Mu Yunge's body or beside him, but his lips had gotten bluer. Jotsushu, after some thought, opened the front of his shirt. On his chest was only a black mark in the shape of a hand.
Oh. That's interesting. And, because that's not a thing in the series as far as I remember. So this is the introduction of someone new, or it's the introduction of someone who we might have known in the series but having abilities that we wouldn't have otherwise seen in the series. So that's very, very interesting. Okay. This was fantastic. I do have to end today's stream more or less here, but honestly, that was so good. I think the favorite part for me of these chapters, was definitely all the flirting. Like, I am here for Wunkershing packing in as much flirting as he can possibly think of in as little time as possible. Like, I don't know why, but I just find it so funny. And especially because we have Jotsushu's absolute, consternation over the fact that this man will not only not leave him alone, but is flirting with him, and he doesn't know how to respond to it. Like, it's just another level of brilliance. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, no, the fact that he's like, yes, let's bet on it. Like, I like making bets. We're gonna bet on death. Why not? I feel like that says a lot about the way that he grew up, but we're not gonna say too much more about this in case someone hasn't finished watching the series. Though I don't think it's really a spoiler. But anyway, if you guys have any questions for me, I'll give it 5 more minutes. But yeah, just thank you guys for accompanying me through another 4 chapters. This was so much fun. I'm gonna see if I can maybe some way squeeze in another live, maybe after work on Sunday. But then that would be maybe at 6. It depends. And then I do want to also mention that we're going to be having 2 more lives to finish off Modazushi. For any of you who watch my lives with Kukaran and with Kikto, we're going to have 2 more this week. I think we agreed on Wednesday and Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Ku's here anymore, because otherwise he could have corrected me. But I'm pretty sure those are the 2 times. And it's going to be at the same time. It's going to be at 8 my time. So what time is that? I think it's 2 p.m. Sorry for the birds in the background. I think it's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, okay. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. this isn't even the tip of the iceberg for his flirting. Oh hell, this is gonna be a lot of fun. Cause like I feel like they had to trim down on Wing Keqing's flirting in the series in order to not like have issues with the censorship. So I'm very keen to see what levels of flirting he is still gonna be reaching by before the end of this. So yeah, as I said, I'm gonna maybe do Sunday again next Sunday, and then we'll try and do 3 or 4 more chapters depending. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. I really had so much fun, and I hope you guys have a very good week, and I will see you hopefully in the comments of the video that's going to be coming up in like what, 15 minutes. So anyway, yeah, 再见。